Good afternoon. Welcome back to the Law and Crime Network. I am Kenney Baden. I will be your midday afternoon host, and we have a lot going on here, as you know. While the special agent, whose name is, oh my goodness gracious, I didn't catch his name, Daniel Case, is on the stand. He's a special agent of the ATF. He's talking about his dog Titan and how they qualify and how they train Labrador retrievers. Gene Rossi, my guest today. Gene, hello.
Oh my God, 2 days?
2 days in a row.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and think about this. And you're the best person for me to ask about this. Now, two quick questions, but you can answer it in one answer. When the special agents testify about their dogs, do they bring the dogs in court?
No.
Okay, well, that was a little too quick, Gene. Gene, as you know, is 30 years with the federal government. Why not, Gene? Why not do a demonstration in court?
Because they're qualified as an expert. They talk about the dog. What they do bring is they have these cards that we've actually admitted into evidence, like a baseball card for the dog. And but what they may have, instead of bringing a dog in, they may have a video that shows aspects of the dog's training, or they'll have a video of what the dog did in terms of inspection. They may do that.
Okay, so that is what the special agent, and by the way, for all of you who are unaware, almost everybody testifies from the ATF, from the FBI, are called special agents. It's a title that's bestowed on them, so when they testify, they have the dignity of working for these governmental agencies. Let's go back in to see if Mr. Case has passed the qualifications of Titan and himself and into the substance of this case. Well, you know, I'd like to say Gene Rossi, the former federal prosecutor for 30 years, that Mr. Case of the ATF special agent is charming, and he's probably learned it from the dogs, right? Because I'm a big dog person. I think they're so charming, and he's learning how to be charming probably by watching Titan, his dog. But I know I'm just joking a little bit, Gene Rossi. So, Gene, my question to you is, have you ever put an analyst like this on the stand, and what's the most important thing you can get out of them?
Well, yes, I have 2 or 3 times. Haven't brought the dog in. And usually when you have drugs brought into the airport and there's a suspicious activity, they'll have a canine dog, a canine sniff, and that develops probable cause. What you bring out of them is their experience in training the dog. That's number one. Number two, most important, is the dog's accuracy of positively identifying either explosives or drugs. And the third thing is, for the scene of the crime, what did you do with that dog, and how did the dog find the material that you're going to admit into evidence?
Well, Gene, fascinating area, because I know they use dogs in many different things. Explosives is easy, drugs are easy. The issue when it comes to dead bodies is a little bit different, that we see them in many of the more vicious crimes, although this is probably one of the most vicious crimes I've ever seen. Well, we are in the case of Brenda Delgado, and that was special agent of the ATF, Dan Case, talking about his dog Titan, finding the gun, the murder weapon. Gene Rossi, a former federal prosecutor for 30 years, they found the murder weapon in the car belonging to Christopher Love, the hitman who's already been convicted and sentenced to death. How about that, Gene?
Well, let me tell you something. Those jurors, 10, 15, 20 years from now, are they going to talk about the witnesses? No, they're going to talk about that dog Titan and how he had a career find. That was fantastic.
And he was very charming talking about it, although we don't have any pictures of Titan in the car, which I'm kind of a little disappointed in. But apparently Titan smelled the ashtray, and he thought this was just a transfer tray. So if I touch my pen and it has explosives on it, and then I go touch this table down here, he was smelling, and then I walk away with my pen, the dog was smelling the transfer, he thought. But in fact, he was actually smelling the gunpowder in the handgun that was underneath the console.
Right. And in defense of the dog, the gun was hidden so well behind the plastic. There's no way he could have indicated that there was a gun, but he did find a location.
He did. He didn't. Well, he wouldn't know there's a gun. He just sat twice saying, over here, gun here, ATF agent who's handling me over here. And apparently it was the lead officer, Sarah, who said, come back, come back, come back. Your dog found a gun, right?
Yes. And I've got to say this. How stupid can Christopher Love be to hide his gun in his car?
Yeah, we never said that killers who are hired off the street for $500, a little drugs, and whatever else there may be, are very bright. And it's certainly Brenda. Remember, Gene, the testimony here is Crystal Cortez and Brenda Delgado were looking on the street, driving around, trying to hire somebody who's going to knock off the girlfriend of her former boyfriend, just driving around the street asking people, will you kill somebody for me? I mean, this is not too bright, but the problem is it did work and it was tragic, right?
It was. And it's amazing that these two individuals, actually three, would take the life of someone so beautiful and do it for, like, as you say, $500, $1,000, plus some marijuana and drugs. It's unbelievable.
She's not being accused right now. This is her trial, but Cortez, we know, has already pleaded guilty for a 35-year deal, but she knows she will get out on parole in 17 and a half years. Christopher Love has got the death penalty. There was Cortez. We saw her. She testified yesterday when you and I were here in her garb, in her fine prison garb, so the jurors could see her. But now it's Delgado. What do you think about the evidence so far? Slam dunk, medium dunk, or, they're not going to convict?
It's not yet a LeBron James layup or slam dunk, but it's getting close.
It's getting close. Well, Gene, here it is. Here's the baseball bat that was in court. Wham! We have to hit it out of the park. And you know what? We need to take a break before we come back and listen to the rest of the testimony. So this is pretty fascinating. We're seeing the actual inside of the car and the weapon of so much destruction, the Smith & Wesson .40 caliber handgun. Gene Rossi, now you've prosecuted these type of cases, and actually right now Detective Sayers is holding that gun with the trigger guard on it. But let me just ask you, Christopher Love has been convicted. He is the hit person. Love killed. He's a killer with the name of Love. He has rosary beads in the car that are hanging, and yet he's got a gun. Right, that he killed this poor Dr. Hatcher with. When you have a case where the hitman's been convicted, but you can't tell the jury that, how do you get around that?
You can't get around it unless you want a mistrial or get an angry judge in your face. What you can do is obviously treat him as if he's there, but don't call him a defendant, and try to bring out. And this is what I used to do. Any statements, any conspirator statements that you could use in your case in chief. So even though Love is not in a courtroom, you can use his statements as a conspirator under the conspirator rule, co-conspirator rule.
Well, let me just tell you, Gene, what's happening in the courtroom right now is the prosecutor, who is doing a wonderful job on this case, is showing that gun, or as I would say if I were the prosecutor, the weapon. If I'm the defense attorney, I say it's a gun. But the weapon to the jurors. How does that affect the jurors knowing that that is the item, along with the bullets that were in the magazine, that killed Dr. Hatcher? How does the jury feel?
Whenever the jury sees drugs, the physical drugs, whenever they see bullets or guns, it really has a incredible effect on the jury. I had a case once where we put 18 firearms on a table right in front of the jury, and that was for the opening. And I got to tell you, the defendant was convicted after the opening.
Yeah, we
the
saw
jury reacts.
We just saw a picture of Christopher Love, who, by the way, we saw his trunk, and he had a number of things. I could see clearly that there was other license plates, which suggests that he switches off license plates when he's doing his crimes. There he is right there. I mean, does the jury pick up on that with their common sense, or they just say, oh, what a mess?
Oh, no, they picked up on the license plate. You don't keep license plates in your trunk. You turn them into the DMV, which you're supposed to do, or the dealership. You don't keep them in your trunk unless you're up to no good.
And he is. You know, I can't, I mean, something gets me about this. I mean, this case is very upsetting to me, especially the fact that you have this man who, for such a little amount of money, with this woman who was willing to pay such a little amount of money to take the life of this beautiful person, and then he rides around with these icons of the Catholic faith, rosary beads. I mean, I don't get it, Gene. What's the psychopathology here?
Well, it's not psychopathology. If he's driving a car that he thinks going to be watched by the police, he probably thinks in his own mind that having rosary beads hanging by the rear window or the rear view window, the police may not think he's up to no good. That's why he did that.
Wow. Well, Gene, do we understand that right now the jury is going to go to a little break? It may be a lunch break. We're going to have to take a little break ourselves as they are in the courtroom going to get ready for the afternoon. As you know, Christopher Love was sentenced to death last year, and in this case, I can think of nothing more appropriate. Let's take a break and come back.